HSBC presents CNBC-TV18's Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective, powered by Parity.
Hello and welcome to the third webinar under HSBC Presents CNBC-TV18 Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective, co-presented by HCLTech. A diverse workforce is no longer optional. 76% of employees and job seekers consider it key when choosing an employer. Companies with 30% plus women in executive roles are 48% more likely to outperform those with less diversity, proving that inclusion drives success. But culture matters just as much as representation. 64% of employees unhappy with the workforce culture have job hunted in the last 6 months, according to SHRM. 87% say managers shape team culture, making mentorship and inclusivity critical. A strong culture fuels business growth, with 94% of executives and 88% of employees calling it essential as per Deloitte. Today, we will explore how HCLTech is embedding DEI into its global strategy, fostering inclusivity through awareness programs and leadership training. Joining us for this insightful discussion are Carol Kreiner, Senior Vice President of Strategic Accounts for Technology Business, HCLTech, and Nadine Bleach, Vice President, People, Europe and Africa, HCLTech. A very, very warm welcome to you both, and thank you so much for joining us today on this insightful discussion. So Nadine, let me start with you. As an advocate for employee well-being and prioritizing inclusion in HCLTech, what, according to you, are the key pillars of your strategy to create a respectful and inclusive culture across a vast global workforce?
I think that's a great question. It's something that we really pride ourselves on. We are a wonderful global workforce. We have over 60 countries of operation and 159 nationalities of phenomenal entrepreneurs and HCL techies. And I think core to our pillar of inclusion and helping people find their spark is recognizing that people are individuals, and it's about enabling people to have their voice and be their unique and authentic selves in a place of work. I think that's really, really important. We champion a culture of inclusivity. It starts from day one as to how can we attract and recruit the best and the brightest. So we make sure that all of our recruiters go through really thorough training. Let's make sure that there's no unconscious bias. Let's make sure that we are attracting a level playing field where we can have the very best of the talent in the marketplace be attracted to us. That also includes our working practices. Let's be flexible in our working practices. Let's be inclusive. Let's also look at how we can welcome back people who've left the organization, typically to raise their families. So we create special programs where we welcome back colleagues who've left, raise their families and wish to come back. So it's a safe haven for people. We also very much intrinsic to our values is about respecting and recognizing difference. So it's around a culture of respect where every colleague, from leadership down, board level down, it's all about how we recognize and treat each other, and we celebrate each other's differences rather than try to create a cookie cutter element to that. And a real prime example of how we bring this to life is our employee resource groups. Phenomenal attraction and phenomenal led by our people. So the employee resource groups could include, Women's Network, Mums Network, Veterans, Pride. So we're all about helping individuals find their place in the organisation, but also find their people.
Carol, following your extensive career in technology industry, very, very impressive, could you share your perspective on the impact that a multicultural organization can have on a business?
Thank you so much. I would start by simply saying that cultural diversity is smart business strategy. HCLTech is a very good example. We operate in 60 countries. We have many nationalities, as well as skill sets. We've also increased our Gen Z more than 40% into our workforce in the last year. But I would start with a couple of examples. First, I think it creates improved decision-making, and that's really pulling together diverse viewpoints and backgrounds. And I think a great example of that is within HCLTech. I lead Women Connect Network Americas, which is an employee resource group. And we have a steering committee that has women from Canada, the US, as well as Latin America, and how we come together and make decisions, I think has been very powerful in the growth and the programs that we've developed for women within HCLTech. Additionally, related to global business expansion, the value of being able to have access to local language knowledge, business practice knowledge, and being able to do that in talent, to be able to do that efficiently has really helped to enable global business expansion. And finally, I would say the importance of just customer understanding. I think we all listen differently. We interpret silence and body language differently, and how we come together as a diverse group to interpret that really translates into, I think, improved customer satisfaction.
Nadine, as you work with global client organizations and help their people transition into new work environments, how can businesses better position its core values and embed these values into their day-to-day operations?
I think a really important part is to ensure that everybody who works in the organization understands the values. We need a collaborative think, and we need to make sure that people understand the direction, the behaviors, and the values of the organization so they know what they're joining, and also they feel very much a part of living those values with each other and themselves, and also the support that they'll get. So I think that's a really important foundation, is understanding. Also lead by example. From the board down and from the most junior up, we all have an accountability to mirror the behaviors of our organization. And I think there's nothing more inspiring than the people that you work with, as well as the people you work for, advocating and living those values that you wish to see. It's also really important around open communication. So part of that, Carol alluded to this around, we celebrate our differences, and it is also about the conversations. So it's about ensuring that everybody has a voice and that we can have honest conversations around things. So that's partly the intention of what we mean, as well as how things are said. So that honesty, that collaboration, and the ability to speak up and be heard is really, really important.
Nadine, as Vice President People, Europe and Africa, how do you ensure consistency of respecting diverse cultural backgrounds, both globally and in the regions that you manage?
I think it comes down to learning, so we have phenomenal training, we have cultural awareness programs, unconscious, bias programs, but it's also about, we're hungry to learn and also to understand. So whether you work, in Europe and Africa, whether you work in Germany, or whether you work in France, equally at India, there's a true appetite to learn and understand and collaborate. So I think that that's a phenomenal element that we have, where people want to understand what's important to each other, and then we celebrate that. So of course there are particular holidays or festivities that we celebrate, but it's also about recognizing the individuality that we each bring to the table beyond, our geographical presence or our religious presence. It's the things that matter to us that we also wish to celebrate.
Carol, as global organizations expect premier client service, no matter the location or the background of the client, how important is it for HCLTech and its clients to have a multicultural team for better project management?
Absolutely. I think project management in a culturally diverse environment does strengthen performance and strengthens customer satisfaction. At HCLTech, we have more than 220,000 employees, and performance really starts with the right team and access to talent, and to be able to have access to skill sets globally, I think really makes a significant difference. Additionally, there is the value in performance related to global coverage and support. It drives business efficiency. One of the things I appreciate about the work that I do is, towards the end of my day, I can have meetings with colleagues in other countries, and then work can advance overnight, and it creates really this 24-hour support that drives, I think, much more satisfied client as well as performance.
Carol, as you work directly with clients on a day-to-day basis, could you share examples of how diverse backgrounds actually match up to common core values, either with the client or HCLTech?
I do have the privilege of working daily with clients, which gives me the opportunity to see how diverse backgrounds align with our core values, both at HCLTech as well as with clients. One example comes to mind, which is a large digital transformation that we completed with the telecom. And in that environment, in that program, we had a team from the US, from India, from Mexico, and the Philippines. The core values that were important for us as well as the client were collaboration as well as transparency. And that for us was really important to think through the different communication styles. Some of us prefer more of a hierarchy, others were more direct, and transparency in terms of information flow to the client. It also meant very early communication of issues as well as disagreements. And so really to solve for that and for a successful program, what we really focused on is in-person, virtual, as well as encouraging individuals to really understand that it was okay to really disagree respectively with the client. I just want to underscore that really one of the values we have at HCLTech is we actually train on this. We have cultural training. We do it formally, we do it informally. And I think what this really does is ensure that, our values as well as those with, clients really are connected well. And I think it's one of the reasons we have such a high retention rate of clients.
Nadine, given your experience in people management, what, according to you, are the key attributes and management priorities to ensure a positive place at work?
To be honest, any employee can answer that question as well. I don't think you need to have experience in people management or be a HR specialist. I think the key thing is if we think about the organizations or the people we've worked with and for, those are the kind of things that we're looking for in an organization. So for me personally, where I strive in terms of my leadership style and also the type of people I like to work with and work for, I really like authenticity. I think it's really important to be yourself. That also just creates a sense of intrinsic trust by being authentic. People know where they are. Empathy is really important. Work and home and, so many other elements of our life are so integrated these days that actually being able to be empathetic is really, really important, and recognizing that individuals have different motivators. So what I might find important and inspiring might be different to my colleague. So as leaders and as colleagues, it's really important that we understand those differences and we celebrate that. I think collaboration is really, really key. I'm sure we've all felt a time where we felt a great sense of pride, where we've been able to collaborate, where our voice has been asked, for an opinion, and we've been able to shine. So I think those are really, really important elements around ensuring that there's positivity and a place, in a workforce. Of course, we're all about inclusion and diversity at HCLTech. And part of that as well is about being flexible and being, communicative. It's really, really important as part of inclusivity that we communicate openly. So about how we're doing as a business, what our platforms are, where we're heading, what our aspirations are. Equally so, it's also about being open and honest about things that we might be able to do better. So the opportunity to speak up, to collaborate, and to work together in one direction is really, really important. So I would say those are the pivotal elements. And as individuals, we will each know what inspires and drives us.
And Nadine, can you give some examples of a successful roadmap that prioritizes diversity of thought and backgrounds?
I think in summary, really what we're saying is it really does need, top-down support. A culture of an organization, absolutely, is all about each person, but it's driven by the agenda of the board and the executives. So you really need that support, and you need to make sure that that's also mandated. And let's be honest about it, sometimes to help move things in the right direction, some organizations may put that into, key performance indicators to make sure that that's on track and that that's an inspiring element around somebody's role and accountability. It's also really, really important that everybody understands and lives the values of the organization. So it's not just about having a poster on a wall or in the lift that you see each day. It's about really understanding what that means to you as a colleague and what that means to you as a leader and how you bring that to life. So I think that understanding and collaboration and passion for the same thing around the behaviors and values is really, really important. We've mentioned, employee resource groups, and they're really, really important to us at HCLTech. And that's the way that, people can harness together and we can help drive really positive change and also find our people. So those are really, really important as well around helping your diversity and your inclusion strategies. And, like Carol and I have been saying throughout, again, it's also around the communication and the intent and the desire to understand each other. Difference is wonderful. And it's about the curiosity to seek about, where can we create an understanding? Let's learn about different cultures and let's celebrate them. So I think in summary, it's about, top-down support, true understanding and living those values, and the opportunity for everybody to feel that they have the opportunity to shine and find their people.
Carol, real career growth often comes from mentorship rather than networking. Both are important, but you can't underscore the importance of mentorship. How can women or any employee actively seek mentors to advance their leadership journeys? And how has mentorship impacted your career?
Networking is important, but mentorship, is really important. I would also add developing sponsors. But there's three recommendations as I think about, women and any other employees. And first, I would say leverage, internal and external networks. I think that's so important. So you have really the broad perspective in terms of developing your own leadership style. Be open to peer coaching. I think sometimes we can get focused on a particular type of mentor, but I think learning from your peers, developing your personal board of directors, I think can really add a lot of value to your own work experience and professional development. And then also I would underscore just the importance of what I would say is give as much as you get. A mentor wants to see you, be successful. I think it's important that you prepare, that you listen, and that you really follow up so that the two-way aspect of mentorship is really developed. I think that's where relationships very much strengthen. In my own career journey, I have been very privileged to have terrific mentors. And I think of one of my special mentors that I had for 10 years. His name was Mike Hughes. He passed away, a few years ago. And he would very much, he had this master way of reframing things for me. And I would tell him, talk with him about a particular challenge. And he would say, Carol, if you're open to it, I have a few thoughts, which was my invitation to say, yes, I was or not. And certainly over those years, there was a few times that I would say, absolutely, I'm not interested today. But having people to help you really reframe, think differently, look at different aspects of challenges, it really is so helpful in a career journey. So I just think mentorship is just so critical. And one of the things I'm very proud of within, HCLTech is that we really do invest in that for many of our employees. And it's been just so successful.
Carol, with diverse cultural norms and backgrounds, both globally and in the US, how do you respect these cultural differences? And how do these differences positively impact the daily work environment?
I think that's such a great question. And I would really say three things here. First is, take the time to learn and respect cultural differences. I think that's really important. The relationships you develop in any environment, it lasts a lifetime. So taking time to really learn. Open communication, ask questions, make sure that there's an environment where dialogue can occur. And most importantly, I would just say, trial and error. I'm reminded of, early in my career, one of my first trips to France for a business meeting. And I remember preparing for that meeting. And one of the questions I asked is, what time will we meet? And the response was, we're going to meet, at 5:00. And my initial response is, oh, great, we're going to go directly to dinner. Now, I certainly know, depending on where we are in the world, that is not the time for dinner. And I think learning from that, and they just make great stories and create a lot of laughter later, is just I think, really develops, I think, a much more interesting workplace, much more cohesive teams, and business success. I go back to where I started, which I think it is definitely a good business strategy.
Well, folks, with that, we wrap up this insightful discussion. Thank you very much for joining us for HSBC Presents CNBC-TV18 Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective, co-presented by HCLTech. Today's conversation highlighted that diversity, equity, and inclusion are not just terms. They're essential to building an enriched, innovative, and engaging workplace that drives impactful business outcomes. Let's continue to push for stronger representation of women across all levels. Thank you and take care.
HSBC presents CNBC-TV18's Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective, powered by Parity.